All right, there we go. So hi, everyone, and welcome to the SUNY Plattsburgh Campus Violence Prevention and Resource panel. We come together at least once or more a semester to be able to answer a lot of questions that all of our agencies commonly get. As you watch the presentation today or at a later date in time, you will see that all the individuals you see on your screen today, and a few others who were unable to join us, are a part of the process when, again, preventing sexual violence, interpersonal violence, and or responding to any form of violence through accommodations and services that may be offered. So we are glad to have you all here. I'm going to start off by introducing myself, and then our panelists are going to introduce themselves with their names, their pronouns, where they're from within their agency or office, and then we'll get started. My name is Zyaijah Nadler. I am the Violence Prevention, Education, and Outreach Coordinator here at SUNY Plattsburgh. Through the Title IX office, I coordinate all of the event programs, educational opportunities, workshops, and really collaborate with all of our community partners that you see with us today. My pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Hi, I'm Butterfly Blaise Boire, and I am the Title IX Coordinator. So I work in the Title IX office, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Hi, I'm Bennett. I'm the Title IX and Non-Discrimination Investigator at SUNY Plattsburgh. I also work in the Title IX office, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
I'm Jessica Facteau, Investigator with University Police, she, her, hers.
I'm Amelia Lucia, Assistant Director of the Global Education Office. The Global Education Office has 3 different function areas: international admissions, study abroad, study away, and international student services. My primary focus is the international student services, but available for others. And my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
I'm Ashley DeRocher. I am the Director of Student Support Services, and I also oversee student accessibility services on campus, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
I'm Alison Azisel. I'm a counselor at the Counseling Center, and I coordinate the outreach for mental health related events. My pronouns are she, her, they, them.
Hi, I'm Steve Matthews, Director of Campus Housing and Community Living here at the SUNY Plattsburgh campus. My pronouns are he, him, and his.
Hi, my name is Melinda Seiden. I'm an Assistant District Attorney in Clinton County, and I handle all sexual assault cases involving anything involving the sexual nature, as well as any crimes against children. And I also handle every felony that stems from the city of Plattsburgh.
Hello, everybody. I'm Larry Allen. I serve as the Director of Student Conduct here on campus. My office oversees the adjudication of all cases referred to our office for any alleged misconduct of the Student Conduct Manual or Group Conduct Manual. And we are over in Kehoe on the 6th floor.
Hi, my name is Eric Burnett. I'm a Senior Investigator with the New York State Police Campus Sexual Assault Victims Unit. I provide assistance to the Title IX offices and in support of the Enough's Enough legislation. He, him, his.
Hi, my name is Genie Denton. I work at Stop Domestic Violence. I'm the community educator, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi, I'm Mason Dierich. I'm the Enough is Enough coordinator with Planned Parenthood Sexual Assault Services, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs.
Hi, I'm Levi Ritter with the Plattsburgh City Police. I'm the Chief of Police here. That's it.
We also have a representative from Champlain Valley Physicians Hospital, Gail, which is a registered nurse for the sexual assault nurse examiner, pronouns she, her, and hers. So for those of you who are trying to figure out the flow of today, we have some prepared questions for our panelists here, which we will get to. There are some specific and then there are some general questions. If you are attending virtually with us today and you would like to submit a question, please feel free to chat with me privately, as the chat feature for everyone has been disabled. So if you want to send a question in, again, feel free to send me a personal or private chat so then I can delegate that question to the appropriate party for today. So we're going to get ready. For those of you who are joining us for the first time and did not see yesterday's presentation, please feel free to check out our Title IX YouTube channel, as you will see some questions that were answered yesterday that will not be repeated today, because we want to touch on a few other questions we commonly get in our offices to give you assistance, more assistance. So we're going to start off with the Title IX office. So for our Title IX coordinator and our Title IX non-discrimination investigator, what does intaking a report and what does an investigation consist of? What does it look like?
So I can start, because not every report that comes in for an intake would it go on to Autumn for a formal investigation or for any sort of criminal investigation. So ultimately, I can go through with you what I would go over with someone when they come in, but it's going to depend on the person and what their needs are, and what they're asking of the college at the time that they come in. So if someone comes in to meet with me, and again, yesterday I had highlighted the fact that I am a neutral party, meaning that I'm the person that would meet with reporting individuals, and I'm also the person that would meet with accused individuals to go over all of their rights, resources, and accommodations. So I'll go over what happens in each of those scenarios, but ultimately it's a lot of overlap in terms of what I'm covering with them when they come in. So a reporting individual, if they come in on their own or are referred to the office, something I would go over with them is called the reporting information checklist. And ultimately, this is a document to start to develop some relationship with the individual and get some information from them on how they would like to be served and different things that they think that I should know or that they're comfortable sharing with me so that I can do a better job of serving them from a trauma-informed perspective and from an intersectional perspective. So sometimes we do this in one meeting. Sometimes we need to meet multiple times, whether it's the reporting individual or the accused individual. It's really up to them. And ultimately, we go at their pace. What we have to do when someone comes in is there's a lot of compliance parts, meaning there's some things that I must be telling people when they come in regards to their rights, resources, and where they can access our policies. And then there are parts of that that are much more optional. So we're trying to always balance I know this is technical, some compliance parts, but ultimately the goal is just to make sure that you're as informed as possible so you can make decisions that are best for you. In most scenarios, when a reporting individual comes in, they will have the choice to decide whether or not they want to engage a formal investigation, unless there's a situation where that person is bringing me information that links to other reports that I have. So I'm the person that would keep track of trends and patterns. And if someone's bringing me information that highlights a campus safety risk versus an individual risk, in those scenarios, which are very seldom, but they do occur, I would then have to initiate an investigation on behalf of the college, whether or not that person had chosen to participate. But regardless of that, they would be completely informed. Sorry, my phone is ringing and I don't know how to stop it. They would be completely informed of what would be happening in the step-by-steps of that process, and in complete communication for that. So resources could be things such as getting linked to anyone who's on this call, counseling, health services, police departments, academic accommodations. So I work with departments to get individuals support such as extended testing time, if they miss classes, to be excused for those classes. Anything really that they are looking for, we work to figure out a way to get them connected to those resources. Likewise, an accused individual would come in and go through a checklist called an accused individuals checklist. And while it's important to highlight there's an equity piece here, meaning that individuals who experience violence they are often going to need more in those situations, and we have a responsibility to offer more. However, an accused individual has due process rights and rights to get resources as well. So we would also go through that sheet, go over the policies, go over their rights. One of the important rights for an accused individual, and ultimately I would be meeting with someone who is accused only if the reporting individual is requesting an informal resolution. So meaning they're asking the college to engage in some sort of mediation that would be going through my office, or if the individual has requested a formal investigation, then I would meet with the accused individual before they are connected with Autumn to let them know that their participation in the Title IX process is voluntary. So it's going over all those rights and resources, seeing if they need counseling, seeing if they need academic support, and so on and so forth. So I really could probably talk about this for a very long time, but I think that that hits the key points of what we would be going over with individuals when they come into the office.
So as Butterfly said, she would meet with reporting individuals or accused individuals, and then if at that point if a reporting individual comes in and decides yes they want to move forward with an investigation, that is the point that I would be connected with them, and I would connect with them and set up a time to meet with them and speak with them and conduct an interview. I would connect also with the accused individual to do the same thing. I would do so after Butterfly has made that initial connection. The interviews are trauma informed, and they are voluntary statements that are provided by both parties. And so during that process, you know, there are opportunities for breaks. There are opportunities to say, hey, I can't do this today. I need to do this another day. We can always postpone things if that's the need of the individual at the time. What we also try to do in the sort of realm of trauma-informed investigations is, if we can collaborate with other agencies that might be involved, other law enforcement agencies potentially, to do simultaneous interviews, we will try to do so, because that will reduce the times that an individual has to share their experience. So when and if that's a possibility, we do try to do that. I would also meet with any witnesses that might be directly involved or have direct knowledge of whatever incident was reported, and I would get statements from them as well. And then any evidence that is relevant to the report, that could be text messages, that could be photos, videos, really anything that could speak to either party's version of events. So all of that information would be put together in a report that then would potentially go on to student conduct, depending on whether or not there seems to be a violation of student conduct or of any policies that we adhere to here at SUNY Plattsburgh. So at that point, I would participate in the conduct process as far as presenting the report during the hearing, if there was a hearing, and then the rest would be in the hands of student conduct at that point.
And speaking of student conduct, that is a great segue to our next question, as they are typically sometimes the next step in the process. So the question for our Director of Student Conduct is, how involved am I required to be in my case?
Okay, so most likely cases that are referred to our office related to any sort of sexual misconduct is going to end up in a hearing, and even more so with the final rule. So I'm going to speak specifically to that. A person can choose to participate to the extent that they're comfortable. They can make requests for accommodations and to help better accommodate, using the same word, accommodate them participating. That could be participating remotely, which of course during these times is likely to be the case for everybody. But the most important thing to address here is that with the final rule, probably the biggest difference compared to previous years is that in order for a person's testimony, verbal and other statements, to be admissible, that person, whether that be a witness, respondent, or reporting individual, must fully submit to cross-examination by the other party's advisor. And so what that means is, and the difference is, in previous years, students would ask questions themselves should they choose, and that could be facilitated through the facilitator of the hearing or a board. But, and then in those cases, advisors could only privately advise the students. Now that is not the case. For those cases, those Title IX hearings, the advisors there to privately advise, but during the point of cross-examination, they are the only people permitted to ask questions. And so that denies a respondent or reporting individual to ask their own questions at those proceedings. And of course, that goes for witnesses too. I mean, they don't have the right to ask questions, but any statements submitted as part of an investigative packet from Autumn, for example, and any testimony given at a hearing is only admissible and if they fully submit to cross-examination, which also, just to be clear, means any question that is asked and before it can be answered, the facilitator, which would be me in these hearings, has to determine if the question is relevant to the matter, and if so, that is therefore deemed a question that has to be answered in order for any and all testimony to be permitted and admissible. That is probably, those two parts are probably the two biggest changes as it relates to the conduct process under the new final rule.
Thank you.
Yep.
And next we're going to go to our district attorney's office. Yes, panelists, there's a slight change. Hold on, we're good. But we're gonna go to our district attorney's office to get their specific question, which they have two of. So what are some criteria involved in whether or not the district attorney's office would pick up a case? That's the first question.
So first, I apologize for the change. Unfortunately, I have to be in court by 1. I didn't know that until this morning. When it comes to whether or not, I wouldn't necessarily say pick up a case. If there is an arrest that has been made, we are automatically given the file for prosecution. Typically at that time, I review the file myself with the law that the defendant has been charged with and review the evidence. I then speak with the witness on the case, usually the victim, most importantly, to find out what their goals are through prosecution, what the options are, and how the evidence would play out in court in terms of potential results of a case. A lot of the time, whether or not we complete the prosecution, and what I mean by that is if it ends up going to trial, is if the victim is willing to cooperate. Because with a lot of the laws and what's allowed and admissible in court, live testimony is what's needed in order for a prosecution to be successful through trial. So with that being said, if a victim does not want to testify or doesn't want to continue with the charges, we explore other options such as a lower plea bargain, and I talk to the victim about how that would affect the prosecution's case if realistically we can't have a case if we don't have a victim that's willing to comply with that. So a lot of the times, whether or not or how an offer is made is based on conversations with the victim to find out how they would like this handled, and also in conjunction with the evidence that we do have.
Thank you. And then our second question is, how would the district attorney's office prepare someone to take the stand?
So whether or not they are a victim in a case or a witness in a case, especially if it's one of my cases, they'll get to meet me many, many times. A lot of times, the best way to prepare for a case is to have somebody come, obviously meet in person, and I'll prepare the questions ahead of time that I'll be asking them at trial, and we'll go over the questions and do a practice direct examination. I then typically, based on reviewing at that point when you're going to trial, you know your case, you should know your case pretty well, and you also do know typically what the defense is because of the new reciprocal discovery laws that they have to provide us their evidence. I will know what the weaknesses are in my case as well as what their defenses are, and talk to them about and we'll do a mock cross-examination, which is when the defense attorney for the accused is able to question the witness. So we'll do questions in the same style around the same subject matter that I can foresee actually being used at trial. Also, we will go down to the courtroom so they can, when it's closed, usually after hours, to see where they'll be sitting, where the jury will be sitting, where the judge will be sitting, and go over everything, so they are, so the first time they're seeing the courtroom is not when in a stressful trial situation. And we will practice these questions at least 2 times, but if someone wants to meet more, I'm more than happy to do that. But usually people don't like to come in that often, but as much as people are willing to or want to prepare and practice, I am definitely about that.
Thank you. So the next question is going to go to our university police. So how do I make a report to university police, and how do you all receive the reports that are made?
Thank you, Zyaijah. I'd like to first start off by kind of reiterating something that Chief Ritter had mentioned yesterday about the appropriate phone call and the phone number to aid in that fast response time. So in the event of an emergency, 911 is the best number to dial. That way that given the proximity to the call, the appropriate agency will be dispatched. But if it's a non-emergent situation, 518-564-2022 can be called. So typically you can call our station and someone can be dispatched to you, or we can ask that you come in, or you can come in yourself or with a third party. Some folks on this panel could probably attest that a lot of individuals go to them first and then in some capacity get routed back to us. The nature of these offenses that we're speaking of on this panel, most of the time start somewhere else, either with the Office of Title IX or with a CD or a CA in the residence hall. So that's typically the way that you can make a report to us. And then the same way that we get reports is, you know, the CAs, the CDs through Title IX anonymously, which actually brings me back to the way you can report through Silent Witness on our website, which is an anonymous reporting form, but also through, you can come in with, yes, you can come in with a friend. A lot of times what we get in these natures of these cases are third parties, which would be someone's friend, a mentor, or the Title IX office, or someone in the residence hall. Is that thorough enough? Okay.
Yes, thank you. And a quick thing that I learned here at my time in SUNY Plattsburgh is a little jingle. So if you don't know what to do, call 2022. And that's always the number for university police. It's always 564 before, which they don't tell you. They just assume you know that. So it is 564 before and then 2022 whenever you're calling anyone on campus. So next, we're going to continue on with law enforcement. Again, we have representation from city police as well as New York State law enforcement as well. So the first question for you all is, how does the process of reporting differ from campus functions?
It only varies slightly. It is in essence the same reporting process the Investigator Facteau outlined, only it would be at a different location. The one thing that I would say differs from our agencies is we do not have access to student information like the university police does. And that is protected information, so we can't even ask for that in certain situations. So I guess that would be the caveat, with maybe just the understanding that we may not know certain things about campus life or your campus information like the university police would.
So as far as reporting to the New York State, there's 2 different entities. Myself, working with Campus Sexual Assault Victims Unit, I actually am in a very unique position to help the students themselves, whereas dialing 911 to get the state police or calling them directly here in Plattsburgh. If they get involved, they're going to look at it from the criminal end of things, just like the city police will. They're going to do a criminal investigation. Whereas if they contact me or Title IX gets me involved, I'm going to sit down with the student and I'm going to talk to them, go over all their options, criminally, civilly, weigh out what they can expect through the entire process and help guide them and let them make a decision, an educated decision on which way they'd like to go, whether it be criminally or civilly or both. That's kind of the difference in reporting to myself as opposed to regular troopers.
Thank you. And then the next question we have is, given racial injustice we've seen over the years, some Black people and people of color do not trust law enforcement. What are some efforts happening and or that you can expect to be happening or that we should know about to better the relationships between police and marginalized communities?
Excellent question. So unique to the city of Plattsburgh, we have a community resource center. It's been in operation for about 2 years at this point. One of the concepts was to bridge the gap between the police and the community, kind of based on what you spoke about, general distrust. So it's an effort to try and be as transparent as we can with how we interact with the community. So it's a rented space in downtown Plattsburgh on Margaret Street. It's an old shop, but it has signs on the door that indicates what it is. It's very inclusive. Anyone is welcome there. Before COVID-19 occurred, we regularly held community events, just trying to outreach as much as we could. So that's something that has been taking place, and we hope to build on it. As far as what is happening now and in the future, this probably relates more to the governor's executive order on police reform. So currently taking place across New York State and specifically in this jurisdiction, there's a comprehensive review of the city of Plattsburgh's police department, policies, procedures, and that is open to public review. So really the public has an opportunity at this point to make their voice heard and, you know, express their feelings on police reform unique to this jurisdiction.
Just to piggyback on what Levi said, under that directive, every law enforcement agency in the state is being tasked, I believe, Levi, it's by April 1st, to have some kind of reform and turned into the governor's office.
Correct.
Once that's met, I think there'll be a better understanding of where the communities would like the police to go. And I think that's when you're going to start to see some really significant changes in the smaller communities. As a state agency, we're under his direction all the time. And whatever he says is what we've been doing for quite some time. We have increased our bias crime unit numbers. They've really added a lot of people to that. I've been a part of that since 2007. So I also have a pretty good background in hate crime investigations. So that's something else that I can help with. But he really has ramped up the numbers as far as people in those units. And I believe you're going to see many agencies model after what the state police already are doing.
Thank you both. And now we're going to move into some campus offices to discuss their services before we go into some health and wellness individuals. So for housing, there's so many resources. How would a student know which one to utilize and how to contact them?
That's a good question, Zyaijah. Appreciate it. And yeah, even looking now at all these faces on the screen in front of me, and the presentation last night was the same faces and even some more faces, you can certainly understand how a student would look at it and say, I don't know who to go to. There's so much and there's so many things. part of that's a good thing. That means there's a lot of resources available for our students. I think it's important to recognize and for students to realize that it's not necessarily your job to know where to go. That's our job, and that's what we work really, really hard with our residence hall-based teams to be a resource for you and to be a person that you can go to. Oh, my phone's ringing now, Butterfly. I'll just hang up on it. To train them so that they know the proper resources and the places to refer students and to be supportive of our students. And that's what we want to make sure that they know how to do, so that a student can just come tell their story and feel supported and feel like the person that they're interacting with is there for them and is going to, you know, we actually have a lot of things in place to make sure we're covering certain resources to make sure that students know the different options that they have. And it's not the student's job. The student's job is to come tell us, you know, I've been harmed and I need help. And we're here to help you with that.
Thank you. And for our Global Education Office, whom should I contact if something happens while studying abroad?
Great question. So my study abroad colleagues have suggested it's best, of course, to reach out to local authorities, excuse me, for wherever you are studying abroad. And I know that may create some kind of cross-cultural bump, but at the same time, in partnership, reach out to Brooke Leahy. She's my colleague in the Global Education Office who's in charge of all study away activities, including national student exchange. So if you do both of those, that should suffice. Can I quickly talk about the 2 questions from yesterday too? Or no, we're not doing that. Can I do that? All right, thanks. Because of those of you who may, I don't know, you might want to know. Want to make sure it's clear if you're reporting, it will not impact your immigration visa at all if you're an international student. However, if you are an international student who's arrested for anything, please come and let us know. I know it might feel embarrassing to do that, but it's really important, and please let us know. We're welcome to. We've dealt with this before, and we are gentle, but we want to make sure you have the right resources because that's our job for that happening. And secondly, is if you've reached out to us, will it be confidential? So for me, it'll be confidential within our office. Only the people who absolutely need to know will know when it comes to our office, but we are obligated to reach out to our colleagues like Butterfly and others, and Zyaijah, others on campus that do have to know. We're an obligated reporter. Did I say that correctly, Zyaijah? But I wanted to make sure you're aware of that you have our word that it'll be confidential within us. No other international students should know about it, but it should be from within our office. Even not everybody in the office needs to know about it either, only for those of us. So.
Thank you. And just to clarify, because I know language is always so tricky, especially when and I know we covered a little bit of it yesterday, but the 2 differences within, well, there's 3, but one's anonymously, as Jess mentioned earlier, the other 2 being private and confidential. So what Amelia is referencing between keeping it only within those who need to know is being a private resource. So Amelia, like many others on campus, are considered private resources where only the people who need to know, such as Title IX, University Police, will be notified, so that for them, those are the individuals that you can go to, versus confidential, which is the language we see used for our counseling professionals on campus and off campus, as well as those who may be legally bind in some way.
Thank you for clarifying that, Zyaijah. Even if you speak English, you may speak a different type of English than I'm speaking, and even if you are, it's great to have some of that legal that clarified as well. So,
of course,
great.
And if it's okay, I just wanted to highlight, because it is coming up a lot, and I know we discussed it yesterday, but in case people are only watching this part, a lot of people were concerned with the new regulations that we would not respond with incidents that occurred off campus or internationally. that is why we created a standalone policy, so we can still respond. So we're still in the zone of if something happens to a member of our campus community, we're going to do everything we can to respond, whether that means investigation, resources, or accommodations. The other important thing to highlight for folks who are really geared towards telling people to go to resources or law enforcement is remembering that that's not the same in some countries, and it could in fact be dangerous for individuals to disclose to officials depending on the country they're in. Some people have been incarcerated for years based on filing a report of rape. So it's important to know that if you have a question about that, to speak specifically to the experts in EGO and to connect with our office so that we can give clear guidance so people are supported and not harmed.
Thank you so much, both of you. And next, we're going to go over to Student Support Services, who has a lot of services. You can hear them mention it about yesterday in yesterday's presentation. But today, we have a lot of students who always wonder, well, how can I get these resources? Am I eligible for these resources? So if you don't mind sharing with everyone, what is the criteria for receiving any assistance through Student Support Services or Student Accessibility Services?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I'm going to start with student accessibility services because that might be most pertinent for this scenario. So if there's any sort of documentation at all for mental health or anything that's happening, whether it be a learning disability, you can obviously qualify. But I think in this scenario, we work really closely with Butterfly and anyone else in the office. So if you feel that you might need some support, whether it's with advocacy for a course, for absences, if you're not feeling safe in your living situation, if you might feel like you need an emotional support animal, it's really an interactive process. And SAS at plattsburgh.edu, if you haven't already connected with someone on this panel, you can feel free and ask that. And we're a confidential resource for SAS. And as far as student support services, we're more of a holistic program. We primarily serve first-generation students, students who are income eligible, and students with disabilities. But we're here to support you in any way, whether that's academic, supportive counseling, which is different than the counseling center. The counseling center offers mental health counseling. We offer, if you need a place to come and talk, if you're having a hard day, if you just want to have a person that you always know you can go in and just talk with that same person, we're that kind of office of support for you. Among other things, but I think I'll leave that there. And the last thing that we do is the food shelf, and that is you can just, anytime you need food, there's a link that you'll be able to access if you need it. Somewhat unrelated, but sometimes people present with all kinds of needs. So.
Thank you so much. And now we'll transition on to our health and wellness. So we're going to start with the counseling center. What are some things that you do when you're overwhelmed that can help you feel more grounded? So a lot of students are concerned, especially with COVID, being able to access, mental health services and things of that nature. So what are some things that students can do as they're learning remotely, in addition to coming to your office or virtually?
Hi, Zyaijah. Can I add something to Ashley first? And I might have to have you ask that again, I'm sorry. But I wanted to point out that the Counseling Center works with Student Support Services a lot with accommodations. And I think an example of how something related to sexual assault and interpersonal violence, like an accommodation example would be somebody who has a trauma reaction going into maybe like to get their food. And so having somebody else be able to go to the dining hall and get food for them. So that's specific to the trauma and everything. And we've worked with Student Support Services on those kind of accommodations. So I just want to throw an example out there that there are like Title IX related accommodations that Student Support Services they do and that we've initiated, and it works out really well working with Student Support Services. I just wanted to throw that out there. So your question was, do you mind, Zyaijah? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Don't apologize at all. It's cool. So a lot of students are worried about their mental health throughout the semester and furthermore beyond the semester. So what are some things that you can promote that they do to really feel grounded when they may feel overwhelmed?
Grounded. I think of distractions first, but I think grounding is probably good too. But like 2 words, TikTok, like that's a really good one. I think I think years, decades from now, anthropologists are going to study this pandemic and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, TikTok saved everybody. Like, I just think that that's how I survived quarantine. I don't know about anybody else, but I think that distractions can be helpful, and TikTok is one of those distractions. Other things a lot of people find useful are, watching some of the favorite shows that are more like nostalgic and comforting. Like, how everybody has that show that they watch over and over again, and it just makes you feel comfortable and in a space that makes you feel better. That's been something that I'm hearing from a lot of students that's helpful, and adults too. I mean, we're all in this together. I think that as far as specific grounding exercises, if somebody's open to doing something physical with their body, that can be really helpful. And so like exerting some kind of physical energy, whether that's exercise or yoga or what is that? I'm trying to remember the name. Like tightening your body and then releasing. I'm blanking right now. But there's different exercises, and I think that surprisingly, YouTube is a really great resource. I like recently, after just hearing over and over again from students, discovered the noises and the sounds, the talking, the ASMR. That can be really, really like grounding, like put you to sleep almost if you need that. But I think that thinking outside of the box is the best thing for everybody right now. And whatever works for you, keep doing it, because if it works, I think that that's probably the best thing, because everybody's so different. But I think everybody who's a student is welcome to access services at the counseling center through the counseling center, not physically at the counseling center right now, and come up with like unique plans, because I think that everybody's so individual and so different. And so I think that I encourage, even if it's just one like phone call, one Zoom appointment, just to make a plan, that can be helpful. Like, you don't have to see a counselor over and over again. Just one like appointment can be very helpful, actually. But I don't know if that answered your question.
It did. Thank you.
Okay.
And then the other thing, as from the from the outreach perspective, is there anything that you want to highlight to let students, faculty, and staff, or whoever's
Yes. Right now, the only thing that's set in stone right now, because we're pivoting, I think would be the virtual, would probably be the word, Zoom groups, which is basically twice a week we're holding space for students to come who need support. Professional counselor, one of us is going to be there. Students are going to be there. It's only for students. So whether it's support from peers and students that you need, from the students that show up to the space, or if it's a counselor, whatever it is that you need, we're trying to keep it really open to everybody. And I think that, I think another word would be like drop-in group. And that is being held, and I'm trying to figure out the new digest thing. It's not working for me. But it's going to be going out there for faculty, staff, and students, because I think that if faculty and staff can tell students about this stuff, that's really helpful, and it gets the word out a lot. But it's going to be Tuesdays and Fridays at 3. And there'll be a Zoom link for the groups that will go out in the announcement. And if anybody has any specific questions, they can email me or call the counseling office.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So continuing on with our health and wellness, I'm going to not answer some questions on behalf of our, again, Champlain Valley Physicians Hospital, which is our local hospital, and their SANE exam nurses and things like that. So the question for them was, what can people expect, and what are some things to know, and who would go and get a SANE exam done, and when, and what can they expect in the process? So the answer is sexual assault nurses will do a sexual assault exam on patients over the age of 11 with an acute assault within the previous 96 hours. evidence is collected based on the story of what had happened. For example, if a victim scratched the perpetrator, then they will do fingernail scrapings. And only that evidence collection that the victim is willing to do. The patient does not have to report to law enforcement to have an exam. They will provide emergency contraception, HIV PEP, STI PEP, and victims will have the option of billing insurance or billing the Office of Victim Services, which will not go to their parents. Some other additions is a lot of people are wondering what to expect given the COVID guidelines. So there are no changes other than the patient has to wear a mask and they will be asked for COVID screening questions. If you are looking to go with an advocate, that is something they evaluate on a case-by-case basis. If it is an official advocate, for example, sexual assault services and their rape crisis program, then they would get screened, and if screened negative for COVID, they would be let in. If it is a family or a friend, they will look at those cases individually, as well as evidence is now currently held for 20 years in the event that the victim decides to report in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Gail, for those answers. Moving forward, we also have Stop Domestic Violence continuing on with our health and wellness. So for Stop Domestic Violence, what are some lesser known resources that you would like to let people know about today?
Hi there. So some resources that we offer or services that we offer would be that I would want you to know that we can help you if you have incurred out-of-pocket expenses because you're a victim of violent crime, that we can file an application with the New York State Office of Victim Services to see if you can get reimbursement. If you down the road are concerned, this is especially true for our off-campus, if you're concerned that your abuser is going to find you, we can help you so that you can keep your address confidential if you move to a new location, and we can provide services and resources for that. We also can help a person if they are interested in getting an order of protection, and you don't have to go to the police and file a report to get that order of protection. We have a different path through family court that we can help to inform them about, and they can be a wonderful resource as well. But basically we look at the scenario and the individual and their story, and then we'll try to identify a myriad of resources that they may or may not need. Certainly, if they are feeling like they need to talk with a lawyer, we can have resources that we can refer out for that service as well. So it depends on what their individual need is. There's a lot of things that they might not know about until they give us a call.
Thank you. And then the same question over to Mason at Sexual Assault Services. So what are some lesser known resources that you would like to share and let people know about?
Like Genie, we're able to offer assistance filing Office of Victim Service compensation claims. And like Zyaijah said, we're also able to offer accompaniments. I believe our policy is still we're offering those by phone or virtually, but I will double check that and make sure Zyaijah gets the correct information in case there have been any changes there on our end of things. And then for my position specifically as Enough is Enough coordinator, one of the changes in the last year has been I'm able to offer short-term supportive counseling to students affected by sexual violence in any capacity. And I'm also able to serve as a supportive advisor during the adjudication process for students as well, for reporting individuals.
Thank you so much. We have made it to our general question section, and we have two general questions. And again, whoever would like to answer is more than free to answer, more than welcome. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. More than welcome to answer the question. So the first question is, what is a tip that you have for participants with us today, or some kind of word of encouragement, or what is something that you would like to share with people who are participating today?
One of the things I would like to say is remember the buddy system when you're on campus. If you go with friends somewhere, stay with your friends. Don't leave anybody behind, especially if somebody's impaired, intoxicated. Make sure they get home safely. Buddy system is very important.
I'm going to follow up a little bit off, I'm sorry, Amelia.
No, go ahead.
Off of what Eric just said. Is to follow that instinct that we all have. When something doesn't feel right, and that feeling that you get inside is to act upon that. And it's your body and your brain telling you this isn't right, and to trust that instinct and remove yourself from the situation however you can, or remove your friend from that situation. Kind of following what Eric said, watching out for each other. So trust yourself and trust your own instincts when things don't seem right.
I was going to say, I know in my world with supporting international students, I know sometimes speaking up is really hard. I want to encourage you also, you can come with a friend. It's okay, a friend that you trust. That's right. I'm going to say Butterfly and Zyaijah, that or even sometimes friends have reported on your behalf. And then eventually we do need to talk to you in person, but taking those baby steps as well may also be an option. It might be helpful to you. If I've spoken out of turn, Zyaijah and Butterfly, let me know. Okay. But we see you. We all know that it's hard just to speak up. I'm sure for all of us, but it's take those baby steps and you can do it. You can be able to do it. You'll be glad you did.
My tip would be that for each person, as we live our life, our story is our own. And I know sometimes when you're in an unhealthy relationship or an unhealthy place, it seems like everyone doesn't believe you and that you feel all alone. And so I would let every person know that you're not on this journey alone. We're happy to journey with you. And from Stop Domestic Violence's perspective, our goal and job is to believe you and to support you. And we don't tell you what to do. We merely present options and choices, and then we support whatever choice you make.
I would probably encourage anybody, any student, any provider, anybody in our community to get informed about trauma and really learn how it works. And I think that could be helpful when you're interacting and responding to people who have experienced trauma. And if you have, I think that the research shows that the sooner you maybe get some assistance, whether that's counseling or whatever, there's even some techniques like EMDR, which you can Google, that if it's done right away, it can do so much preventative work for trauma and avoid a lot of stuff that our brain does that we don't want it to do and that's not helpful. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And I would say too, from that perspective, that what we are experiencing right now because of everything going on is a lot of compounded trauma. So people, when they're experiencing violence at this point in time, it's compounded by isolation, it's compounded by previous trauma, and people are just really struggling, you know? And when you think about people who are experiencing sexual or interpersonal violence on campus, over 80% of those people know the person who harmed them. And one of the most common things that I hear when someone comes into my office to make a report is how they don't want to get that person in trouble. And so what I would encourage people in terms of looking at your well-being and is that you give yourself the same love and care that you would give to other people. And accountability doesn't mean you aren't caring for someone. Actually, it's the complete opposite. Holding someone accountable helps them to hopefully grow and become a better person. And the other side of that is if you mess up and you harm someone, do better. You know, take responsibility and move on from that and don't do that again. So I think, you know, you are never responsible for the harm that someone causes you. It's not your fault. However, unfortunately, the way that trauma works, because we are the keepers of ourselves, we are responsible for getting ourselves through it. And that's a lot. And we talk a lot about self-care and, you know, a hot shower, a bath, a cup of coffee. But self-care is also really doing the hard work and kind of diving in and dealing with maybe that trauma from previous and the present trauma. And it's going to be a lot of hard work, but that is your ticket to freedom and getting through to the other side, whether you're the person who's experienced it or you are the person that's causing harm.
And then the only thing that I would add from my perspective, and portion of Olson's is to get involved. If you watched yesterday's video, there are so many opportunities to be involved with many of the offices listed on campus. For the Title IX office specifically, we have internships, we have peer educator opportunities, we have bystander intervention educator opportunities. So there are a host of opportunities to really get involved, whether you're involved on campus, off campus, or beyond that. We really want you to get involved because that increases what an impact we're able to make, again, on, off, and beyond in the life that we're able to live. And that's how we really dismantle these kind of systems of violence that we see so heavily ingrained in our society. Also, if you ever have any ideas, feel free to share your ideas with someone so that they can get them to someone else to help you really get your ideas implemented. Many of us are always open to new ideas. We want to know what you would like to see on campus, off campus, and beyond, and we want to help that come to fruition so you have something here to call your own as you're a student on campus. Even for our faculty and staff, feel free to really engage with any of the offices here to let us know what you would like to see, what you're hearing from your students, and so on and so forth. So to clarify one thing from our Champlain Valley Physicians Health Center in terms of the COVID guidelines that they have to follow, they do make an exceptions for anyone who has experienced some form of violence where that may be re-traumatizing to them or triggering to them. So you will be allowed not to wear a mask if you are someone where that may be a concern for you, or if you've experienced something where covering your face would cause more harm to you. However, your medical personnel will continue to wear their mask throughout the entire exam and throughout the process. So that's just a note to clarify. And that's all I have and that we have listed for questions. If there's anyone who would like to share any final thoughts, any final words, feel free to share those now.
Just on a side note on SANE exams, you do have some minor students on this college campus, I'm assuming 17-year-olds. Okay. They're not obligated to tell the parents what's going on either. And in some law enforcement situations we get where the parent wants the child to have an exam done, it is strictly the victim's decision. They can't be forced to take it and they can't be told not to take it. Because I've seen it both ways where parents are like, you're not having that done. That is not the case. That is solely up to the victim. I just wanted to add that in there on the SANE exams.
Thank you.
I just want to add for both, you know, somebody who might be a reporting individual or somebody might be an accused individual, just know and be aware of your rights when it comes to the procedures, the policies, the processes on this campus and the community. If you're going through the criminal justice process in any way, just understand your rights, know your rights. If you don't know them, connect with people, connect with somebody here in some way, and if we, you know, we'll have that information to share with you. So just, it's so important that everybody within the process know and understand the rights that they have.
All right, so again, thank you all for your time. I wish you a great weekend and a great semester and a healthy semester. If you're on campus or you're within the community, please remember your cardinal pledge, wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, and just be the great cardinal that you can be. Thank you, everyone.